Hi, meteorologist Tony Petrarca, along with meteorologist Michelle Muscatello. Welcome to our 12 on 12 digital original summer weather threats.
Today we're going to go beyond the forecast to answer some of your common questions about summer weather. So Patricia on Facebook asks, what is this nasty trough we've fallen victim to that's producing all these clouds and rain this month of July?
Yeah, nasty is a pretty good word. You know, we're in a weather pattern. When we say pattern, it usually refers to a weather situation that's locked in place for, more than a few weeks. And, obviously, the month of July has had, numbers that are topping the charts that we don't like to really make this list.
Not top 5 wettest for a summer month, right? So July 2021, as of the 22nd of July, was already in the 5th wettest month on record at T.F. Green Airport, and the one that really I remember, July of 2009, and it was a similar weather pattern, Tony. And here's what it is. And
keep in mind, now that was for Providence, those numbers. I know Woonsocket for the month of July is like 11.8, so they've had nearly a foot of rain in parts of northern Rhode Island so far this month.
I mean, the grass looks great, right? But we could use some dry days. So here's what's happening synoptically. We've got a ridge in the jet stream that's over to the west of us. And then in New England, this trough or dip in the jet stream. And Tony, that creates the instability that leads to the showers.
And it's the reason why you've heard in national news of the extreme heat out west. And what dictates the configuration of the storm track of the jet stream here in the United States is really what's going on other sides of the planet as well, the globe, or what's going on in the Pacific or Europe. So it has a downstream effect. So whatever's going on in the Pacific Ocean or out towards Japan and Asia, the downstream effect here in the continental U.S. is something like this. Now, eventually these patterns do break, but for the time being, and you and I were talking off camera about how this pattern, maybe, with the trough maybe lasting perhaps another 1 to 2 weeks. So it just sends down disturbances out of Canada, and it triggers some of these heavy downpours that we've had.
And so we'll be keeping you updated, as it's been a very active pattern for us to forecast. So the next question from Clifton on Facebook: how come the rest of the country gets the triple-digit heat and we rarely do?
We're called the ocean state, right?
Yep.
All right, so you think about it. I mean, not only do we have the open Atlantic, but we have the Atlantic Ocean cutting into the middle of the state, Narragansett Bay. So obviously the ocean plays a huge impact on our weather, whether it's, winter storms, rain and snow, but also temperature. And because we're on the ocean, it just kind of takes the edge off any extreme heat. That's not to say that we're not hot and humid, but, the triple-digit heat tends to be rare, and you usually find it in climates where the air is very, very dry, and we just have such high humidity that 100-degree weather is not that common.
It takes much longer to warm up a body of water like the Atlantic Ocean and to cool it down in the fall and winter than it does the middle of the nation as well. So we get that more temperate climate around here. I mean, 72, 73 degrees for water is relatively cool compared to other parts of the country, even across the Gulf Coast and the southeastern United States. So our main weather impacts that keep us more temperate heat, right, is things like the cooler ocean waters, the fact that we're in that more northern latitude, and in the short term, what we were just talking about a few minutes ago, the jet stream helping to steer those storms. So we could get a heat dome like what they had over the Pacific Northwest, but it's unusual and it would not last long around here.
And obviously wind direction plays a huge factor in the temperature forecast. So any slight component of wind off the ocean, and it's hard to hit 100 degrees, whereas sometimes inland spots can reach that because there's no ocean influence, but the rest of the area, you're 97, 98 degrees, but you don't quite get to that 100-degree mark.
That's right. Well, the next question up is from Karen.
This is my favorite one. Why is New England weather so hard to predict, and why does it change so frequently? I mean, that's why we love working here, right? Because we live in a climate that has 4 distinct seasons. We get everything from A to Z. It's very challenging, as a weather forecaster, but yeah, it can be difficult sometimes.
It is. I mean, the ocean, right, plays a role. We get weather from the water side. We get it from Canada. We can get storms that track from the Pacific all the way to the eastern U.S. And so we're looking at what's happening all over the world to determine what we're going to see here in southern New England. And as we know, little shifts in the wind, little tracks changing by even 40 or 50 miles makes a huge difference in how things actually end up here.
Especially with fronts. We get the questions a lot about what is a front. You see these red and blue lines on the weather map all the time. Warm front, cold front, stationary front. They're very common. They bring all kinds of different weather. And that was a question that we got quite a bit on Facebook. What is a front?
Yeah, so Jerry asked that question. So what we're looking at is the leading edge of a new air mass. It can be a colder air mass, it can be a warmer one, it can be a wetter, a more humid air mass or a drier one. And so our question for you is, can you spot where the cold front is on this weather map? You've got 70s and 80s across southern New England.
You're giving us a test?
Right?
All right.
Can you spot it, Tony? This is an easy one for Tony.
So what we're doing is we're looking for gradients, whether it's a gradient in temperature or dew point, humidity. So in this particular gradient, we're looking for where the temperature changes dramatically over a short distance. You can clearly see Willimantic at 68 and Providence at 78. So there's that 10-degree gradient. So I would, right there.
See, look at the magic of TV, right? There's the cold front.
Yep.
So what do the fronts mean to our weather? Because they do bring changeable conditions.
Yeah, precipitation usually ahead and along the front. Obviously, you get those rapid changes in temperature, hot, cold, or vice versa. Changes in the wind direction, and we mentioned that that's huge around here when you have the Atlantic Ocean nearby, and also changes in humidity. As of this taping, it's our first really low humidity day during the month of July in quite some time, and that was courtesy of a front that went through, and not so much bringing in cooler temperatures, but rather lower humidity.
It's a welcome change.
It is. It's been too humid.
All right, our final question. Edwin on Twitter said, how do you prepare your weather forecast? And I think that's the part of it that people maybe don't think about as much or know about as much from what we do behind the scenes here at Channel 12.
Many hours. I mean, even on a quiet weather day, to analyze all the data, and then to put it together graphically, because we are telling a weather story, we are giving forecast information using maps and graphics to make it easy to understand and to follow. So, we wear multiple hats. I mean, we're actually predicting the weather, analyzing data, putting graphics together to explain that weather story. And then it's not just television, it's digital media. It's on social media, it's on the website, it's on the apps. So there are so many directions where you can get the forecast, and we're getting the word out in so many ways, not just the traditional television. And the fact that the weather is changing constantly, it's really 24/7 in our weather department, and very rarely do we not have somebody in the weather department throughout the entire day. So it's a long day.
It is. And we're looking at not just what's happening in southern New England, but what's happening all across the world to help indicate what's going to be coming our way. And I always tell kids, we're looking not just at ground level, but as high as airplanes fly, because this changes in temperatures, the changes in humidity, the changes in wind direction, all of that plays a role. The changes in air pressure plays a role in what we see right here where we live.
So to get a local forecast, we literally start globally. We're looking at weather data all over the world, but specifically all over the North America and the Northern Hemisphere, and analyzing data out west, because a lot of times our systems approach from west to east. So we're looking at weather out in California, out in Washington State, analyzing that data, satellite data, cameras from space looking down, Doppler radar, weather buoys all over the oceans, taking measurements across the ocean as well, and putting that all together and crunching all the numbers and using numerical weather models. A lot of information to digest to get you a local forecast that's hyper-local. We don't want something kind of broad-based. We want it kind of right down to your neighborhood, and that takes a lot of work, even on a quiet weather day.
Yeah, and that's the difference between, say, just your telephone, your cell phone app, right? Is that we've got a group of trained meteorologists who live in this area, whose focus is on the weather in this area, to help give you the most accurate prediction on what's going to be coming into southern New England.
And it helps that we've been here for a long time. We've seen the little curveballs that Mother Nature can throw here in New England, and the fact that we can determine that in certain situations, like, hey, you know what? Last time we saw this and we learned a lesson, so we know better now to forecast X, Y, Z, but rather do this instead. So that does help.
It certainly does. And we thank you all for all of the questions that you've sent in and your time with Weather Week, allowing us to give you a behind-the-scenes look at what we do here in the Pinpoint Weather Center.
I'll tell you what, any more questions in the future, weather@WPRI.com. Additional questions that you may have that you didn't get a chance to answer, or just you want to know, hey, you know what, we're going to the beach on Friday. What do you think? You want to send us an email, by all means, go ahead.
Absolutely.